Hi guys, welcome to the end of Unit 3, Transformations and Similarity. So, like the last review video, I'm not going to go through examples that are identical or, same structure as the ones in your test. I do have a couple examples that align with some of them, but it's not going to be so just very straightforward, right? Because I got to hand off a little bit of it to you. That way you truly are showing me what you know. So the first few things I'm going to talk about are like definition based, just kind of reviewing different concepts. And then I think I have 3 examples set up for us. Let me see. Yeah, 3 examples set up for us. Okay, I encourage you to take notes. I encourage you to watch this over again if you still don't feel confident. And then hopefully you'll be successful on your test. So, the concepts covered in Unit 3. First off, transformations. Remember, transformations are ways of changing changing a shape. So it might be changing the location of a shape, right? We've talked a lot about rotations, reflections, translations. Those all changed the position. But then in this unit, we talk about changing the size. Okay? So with dilation, that is a transformation that changes the size of a figure without changing the shape. So it's like the exact same shape, just bigger or smaller. Scale factor determines how large or small a figure becomes. So this is really important, and there is a question about this on your test. If you multiply by a number larger than 1, you're going to get a bigger figure for the second figure. If you multiply by a number less than 1, so maybe you multiply by a half or a third, then you're going to get a smaller figure. Okay? So the smaller the number is that you multiply by, the smaller the figure will become. The bigger the number is, right, the bigger the figure will become. Similar figures are figures that have the same shape but different size, but their side lengths are proportional, so you've got to keep that in mind, right? We had a couple lessons on that, so make sure that you remember that. And then the angles are congruent, meaning the angles don't change. They stay the same from one figure to the next if they are similar. Scale drawing ratios. So just keep in mind that in a scale drawing ratio, the first number is the drawings information. The second number in the ratio is the actual figure, like in real life. Okay? And then a triangle's angles always add up to 180 degrees. You got to keep that in mind. There is a question about that on your test. So my first example, I have 2 similar figures. I didn't really write down a question. My goal was for us to figure out what is x. Okay? So remember when we talked about similar figures, we said side lengths are proportional. So we should be able to use a proportion to solve. And then angles are congruent. In this case, we're looking for this side length here, EF. Okay? And we can use the other side lengths to help us. Now, just as a review, we could say triangle ABC is similar to triangle DEF. And remember, with that, these, like angle A, corresponds to angle D, right? Those are the same. B and E correspond to each other. Notice those are both in the center of my triangle's names. And then C and F, and those are the 2 final ones. So with that, that means I can use those corresponding sides to help us. So I know this side here and this one, it almost looks like a hypotenuse, right? I know those. Over here, I know one of them, and I don't know the other. But I can use those to create a proportion. I can say, well, I can compare 4 to 5. That's my straight side versus my angled side. On the other side, I can use the information from this triangle. Well, this is like my straight side versus my angled side, or vertical, I should say. 6 and x. So these were both the vertical sides, and then these are both that hypotenuse looking side. Okay? So being that I am set up in a way to where I just have one variable, I can use cross multiplication. Now you might be able to recognize, you might be able to say, okay, well I know to get from 4 to 6, I multiply by 1.5, right? But let's say you can't recognize that. We'll use cross multiplication. So you'd have 4 times x equals, and then 5 times 5 times 6. So that gives us 4x equals 30. And then divide by 4, divide by 4. That'll cancel on the left. And I have x equals 7.5. So this right here would be 7.5. Okay? So that's a little review about those corresponding sides, corresponding angles, triangles, and using a proportion to solve. Okay, these next two, these are very similar to ones that are on your test. Okay, and so with this one I felt like was like a little tricky, but I'm hoping that by us talking through it, it'll make it a little easier. A triangle has vertices at A 2, 4, B 3, 7, and C 5, 5. It's dilated to the origin as the center to create a similar triangle with vertex A prime at 1, 2. What is the scale factor? So really, what we're doing here, and all you need to do on your test, is we need to figure out, okay, we're focused on A. That's the information that we're given, first off. So for A to go from this point here, which is 2, 4, down to 1, 2, I can set that up like a proportion if I want to. Let's see here. To go from 2, 4 to 1, 2, right? Well, we reduced it, right? We cut it in half, which when we're considering scale factor, it's always with multiplication. So we could think to ourselves, well, this I would divide by 2, and this I would divide by 2. Well, dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/2. So in this particular case, the scale factor is 1/2. All right, that's what you're looking for. Okay? And the last one, again, determine the scale factor. So we're going from A to A prime, B to B prime. So again, we've got like 1, 3. I'm setting it up as a proportion. That's how I like to look at it. You don't have to do that, but we can say to 2, 6. Well, we need to think, okay, well, how do I get from 1 to 2? Multiply by 2. Oh, look at that. 3 times 2 can also get me to 6. Let's make sure that it works on the other one as well. We have 3, 1, and then 6 over 2. Well, look at that. It's just flipped, right? But still times 2 times 2. So that's my scale factor. My scale factor is 2. Okay? So I hope that helps. Feel free to use any one of my videos to help you on your test if you need to review a little bit. And otherwise, reach out if you need more support. Have a great day.